Today I'm Lucas, your program chair. I'm very excited to introduce our program. I'm going to preface that with there's a slide in our slide deck that is a link to a video that I can't work because the laptop doesn't have a Wi-Fi connection. So I'm going to send out, after today's meeting, I'm going to send out a link that has the link to that video, so you'll see when that comes up. But I'm excited today to introduce our program because our program is going to be a bit of an update. If you remember, and we're here during Bryce's presidential year, we had Emily Cupo come out, who is the Director of Development and Communications for StoveTeam International. And she's going to come out, she's going to present today on an update on what StoveTeam has been doing since then and what they'll be doing in the future. So please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Emily Cupo. You just use the arrow keys.
Great, awesome, thank you so much. Thank you all for having me today. I'm actually a fellow Rotarian. I'm president of the New Generation Portland Rotary Club in District 2. So it's good to see your club and have so many people in this room today who's doing a lot of great work, so thank you. I joined StoveTeam actually back in March of this past year. I was introduced, I'm short. You guys can hear me, right?
Okay. If you just aim it down.
I'll get it down.
Oh, I got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you can also,
That's perfect. Sorry. Okay. I joined in March of this past year. Forrest was someone who spoke to you probably, yeah, who was the operations director at the time. Forrest kind of talked to you all about the history with Nancy Hughes, who's the founder and was a Rotarian and just started as a Rotary project. He also probably spoke to you about our new HUSTA program starting in 2020, and now it's progressed 3 years later to a very large development that I'm excited to share with you guys. Thank you for the contributions that you have made for StoveTeam, and I'm really excited to update you. Rotary has really been a major support of StoveTeam from the very beginning. We have Rotary ambassadors who come and hear our presentations and then take it back to their district to share with other clubs. So it's one of those things that Rotary has just been pivotal in all these kinds of evolution and changes. Before I start with all of my updates for you, I want to reiterate the importance of clean cook stoves and improved cook stoves around the world, and especially in Central America, which is where we work. So if you can all just take a moment and just imagine with me that you're around a smoky campfire. We've all been there, you're around the fire and the wind shifts and the smoke hits your face, your eyes tear up and you're a little uncomfortable. And usually you take a minute to see if maybe the wind will shift back, but usually you're just kind of fighting the smoke and the fire the whole time, and you just gotta kind of do musical chairs around the campfire to get comfortable. Now imagine that's what is in your house. For 14 hours a day, you have the fire going and smoke is filling your house and you can't avoid it. You can't just move your direction of where you're sitting. The smoke has built up a 3-inch layer of creosote on the ceiling. This is a common occurrence in homes that have been cooking with open fire for as long as they know. Imagine what this is doing to your lungs. Imagine what this is doing to the lungs of small children. This is how half of the world lives. Nearly 3 billion people cook their daily meals over open fire cook stoves. Still, that's half of the world's population. We're committed to our mission of reducing open fire cooking in homes throughout Central America for 3 really important reasons. The first is health. Obviously, this is doing detriment to health, and I'll share a little bit of the statistics of what that looks like. Women empowerment and well-being. Women are the primary person who is cooking over the fires all day long and tending to them. And then 3, the environment. And I'll touch base on all of those. The World Health Organization calls this the killer in the kitchen. Each year, 4 million people die from complications of open fire cooking. And the World Health Organization also says that this issue kills more people than HIV, malaria, and TB combined. When I first heard of StoveTeam, it was actually through Rotary, and they said this, I was shocked. I didn't know. I am very aware of water and sanitation issues, HIV. I worked in South Africa. I know those issues. But to know that open fire cooking kills more people than that was wild to me. So that's a really big, powerful statement. As I said, women and children are the most affected because women are cooking these meals and children are usually with them in the house doing homework, either strapped to their back, and they're getting high exposures to the smoke. It's the leading cause of death of children under 5, and most of these children are dying from pneumonia or other upper respiratory maladies. Creosote from the open fires coat children's throats and lungs and other eye issues, throat issues, things that are preventative with clean cooking solutions. Open fire is also detrimental to the environment and to our global economy. The World Bank recently released an article stating that the issue of open fire cooking is costing $2.4 trillion a year to health, the climate, and local economies. Families need approximately 70 pounds of firewood a day to keep the fires going. A lot of times, children, just like in areas where they're water scarce or they don't have water resources, children are responsible for going before school or skipping school to help collect water. The same goes with firewood in Central America, in the areas that we work. You see a lot of children, you see old, elderly people collecting the firewood is causing injuries and back problems. And then also you have the issue of deforestation. More and more people in the area collecting firewood, pushing the resource back further and further and causing major issues to the forest and inevitably deforestation. Every year, these cooking fires release millions of tons of CO2 and black carbon into our atmosphere, which is one of the major contributions to climate change and global warming. Okay. And like I said, StoveTeam would not exist without Rotary. Our 2 founders were Rotarians, and the majority of our work for the past 15 years is due to Rotary support, either from the district, club, or individual level. So I want to thank you all for being a Rotarian. It's one of the things that I pride myself on, and so it's really great that it just keeps going and all the work that you guys do. Here is a picture of Nancy with the first stove, the Ecocina. And then this is a picture of Nancy with Larry Winiarski. He's in the plaid. He was the inventor of rocket elbow technology. I don't want to say that wrong. Yes, rocket stove technology that is key to the majority of improved cook stoves that are used throughout the world. Together they developed a simple stove using that rocket elbow technology that was fuel efficient and it allowed for clean combustion of the wood for cooking. This was a portable stove. You can see it was great you'd bring it outside and cook with it outside. It was good in areas of Nicaragua, Honduras. We had it in Mexico for a little bit. And it was the first start of StoveTeam. Each project is run by local people, so our goal was to have people build the stoves, sell the stoves at an affordable amount for the local area. And then these stoves would be in homes. They would take the stoves outside to cook with the plancha, the circular griddle, and you would be able to cook a pot or 2 and some tortillas. This brings us to our newest design. I'll go back to that in a second. This is our newest design, our Justa stove. It was created out of talking with local people in Guatemala, families, cooks, just talking to everyone we could in the community to find out what the Ecocina might have been missing. And one of that was that it was just too small. It's great to bring outside and to cook, small amounts of food, but when you're cooking for a large Guatemalan family of 5 to 8 people, you need multiple pots on the fire, you need plenty of room for tortillas, and so this fixed stove in the home was built. And so our model kind of completely changed. So we went from factories and helping start factories and building Ecocinas to helping train local people to take resources like the plancha and the chimney that we build and our factory partners build, take those kits and take them into homes and build the stoves for their local communities. So we're training local people to build the stoves and hiring them for these projects. Really quick, I'll just go back to this photo. This is a photo of our team. This is our team in Antigua, Guatemala. We have field supervisors, we have stove builders, we have factory managers and workers who in Antigua, we have our factory that builds the griddle, the chimney, the things that are harder to find in communities. The bricks, the mortar, all of that is bought in the area that the project is happening. But we make those kits, and Antigua is where that's all happening. So Alex is our regional director in Guatemala. He oversees all our countries in Central America, so El Salvador, Nicaragua, now Honduras, and he handles all our partnership projects as well. So this is an up-close picture of the Justa stove. I believe when Forrest came to talk to you, it was probably being the pilot program at the time. We've now been placing about 1,500 Justa stoves in homes per year, along with doing the Ecocinas still. Ecocinas are happening and are really popular in Nicaragua and El Salvador, and we just started a new program in Honduras, so they're back in Honduras as well. And this is a picture of our adoption day. We started having these adoption days to tell people about our improved cook stoves, talk about the Justa stove, find out what might be keeping them from switching from open fire cooking to improved cook stoves, and also just kind of test it out so that families could see how the stoves are working. A big thing on that day was the tortillas and how well did the stoves cook tortillas. And luckily we passed, so that was good. And you can see that it was a lot of people, a lot of women and children. So this brings me to our Maestros Comuleros program. We started our academy, our Maestros Comuleros Training Academy, where we train local stove builders from all over. So we have communities bringing people, or other partnerships with other organizations. They will bring people to Antigua, Guatemala to learn about stove building and about our Justa stoves. And then we might start a project. A lot of times that's kind of how it starts. We had a partnership with Mexico, with the organization in Mexico that brought, I think, 5 stove builders to us to learn and then take that back, that information. We also do this to train stove builders for our projects and for our areas within Guatemala and El Salvador, Nicaragua, all of those places. So the first day, it's a 3-day training. We usually have about 10 stove builders at a time. The first day is theory. They're learning about stove building, what it takes, what goes into the stove design and all of that. And then the second and third day are hands-on training. They are put into pairs, and they have a mentor who's a stove builder to help them along the way. The first day is mud. So you can see on this far picture, this is mud, not cement. And it's helpful so that way they can easily make changes, fix errors, learn the steps without using brick and mortar and having to work really quickly. The third day is brick and mortar, and they're working more independently to build the stove so that they know that they're confident that they can do this, and we can evaluate their skills. So we're now introducing this program, evolving it a little bit further. We have a graduation day on the third day. They receive certificates, and usually we'll train them, and then when we have projects, or if we have projects lined up, we will hire them for those projects. Now we're working on stove builder retention and being able to provide consistent work for these stove builders that we're training. So now we're focused on training them, providing contract employment to those who seem really qualified and are doing well throughout the training. And that contract will be at least 3 months, and it would allow them stability so that they know that they're going to be working for 3 months after their training, and then they also have time off. So they're assigned a team. This team goes into rural areas of Guatemala mostly, is where a lot of our work is happening right now. And they'll be on site for 2 to 3 weeks building stoves, and then they'll have a week off after that. And this will result in 10 bases. So you saw those bases that the stoves are built on, and the 10 stoves being built during those 2 to 3 weeks. It just depends on the project and the location, of course, but paid rest period as well, and so that way they can be with their families, because stove building is really hard and tough, and one of our biggest challenges was retention, because you do have to go in rural areas, do the work, and a lot of times you just wait till we have another project. Now we're working to make sure that it's consistent to improve stove numbers and adoption rates of the stoves, and also make sure that we are providing fair wage employment to stove builders. And yeah, so we're really excited about this evolution of our program. We're working really hard to make sure that we have new stove builders interested in building the stoves. And we have a great team right now, and we're really excited. Our monitoring and evaluation of the stoves have been going amazing. We've been working really hard to do kitchen performance tests, KPTs, to see how much fuel use is being reduced, and we're matching everything that we say, and our evaluations are great. It's 50% less fuel being used with our stoves, and then we're reducing smoke by nearly 100%, and CO2 and carbon emissions are being reduced by over 80% with our KPTs. So things are looking really great, and our monitoring and evaluation team is doing amazing. So we're really excited about that. So this is, you can see how we've been evolving over the years and changing our ways to just kind of go with the way that the community needs and listening to the communities. We have a lot of different approaches that we've taken, and with all of our approach and our innovation, we've impacted the lives of 500,000 people and distributed over 81,000 stoves so far. We saved nearly 1 million tons of CO2 from entering the atmosphere, and we're transforming lives from these smoky kitchens to cleaner kitchens, safer kitchens. You can see the burn risk is almost down to zero. The stove itself doesn't get too hot where you can't touch it. We see kids actually doing their homework on the sides of the bases and sitting with their families now instead of running out of the room because they can't handle the smoke. So it really is bringing people together, and they're comfortable now in their homes. So the Husa stove and the Ecocinas have been really interesting solutions to the problem, and they've been working really well. In the past 2 years, we've grown tremendously, and like I said, it was with Rotary support. We also have Rotary clubs working with Guatemalan Rotary clubs, and we've done several projects that way. So there's really cool connecting pieces when it comes to Rotary and StoveTeam and International and Rotary International as well. So thank you all, and I'm happy to take questions.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
Where are you based out of?
So our team in Central America is based out of Antigua, Guatemala, and then we have our US office. We all work remote around Oregon, Portland, Oregon. Yeah, we have, Eugene is where it started, and then we have our executive director was based in Portland now, and other team members. So we're kind of all spread out.
Okay. Very modern.
Yeah.
What is the cost? What is the cost for the two types of stoves? Have you abandoned the smaller portable one for just the bigger family size? And what's the difference between what you take in and how much you're putting back out? You know, what's that overhead for?
Gotcha. So we have not abandoned the Ecocina. The Ecocina is still very popular, and we still are continuing the Ecocina. Our factories in El Salvador and Nicaragua produce and sell those Ecocinas, and we work with other partners throughout those areas to make sure that we're distributing them to families. The stoves themselves, the Justas, cost about $200, $250, $275 when you consider monitoring and evaluation for 5 years. And all the work that goes into that. It varies a lot because the areas we're working in and the regions, you know, every project will have its own cost of transportation, bringing teams out there, all that. So it's definitely a fluctuation and what materials are going to cost in those communities. $100 is closer to what the Ecocina is now. Material prices have gone up quite a bit, so things have just, we've had to balance out what it's cost. Families themselves, they pay about $30 for the Husta. And if they can't meet that number, we will work with them, and a lot of times they'll bring bricks or mortar or whatever they can, so that there's ownership of the project. So that we've seen a lot of stove projects that have, you know, in the front lawn, there'll be stoves of that just the families don't adopt. The stoves, they just don't need it, or they just prefer the open fire. So making sure that the families really want the Husta stove before we put it in there is really important to us. The overhead, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's pretty low. We have been keeping our number at 200, and that's mostly material costs and what it costs to actually get it in there. So I don't have that, but I can look it up and get it to you.
Are there repairs needed? Like, what is the life cycle of one of these stoves? And
Yeah, so because it's a new project, we've been kind of just projecting of what the life cycle is going to be. We have been saying it's about 5 years for the life cycle of this stove. Repairs are definitely needed, and that's kind of where our monitoring and evaluation comes into. The ones that are built correctly and great and are set, they should be set for 5 years. Occasionally they need a part replaced or something like that, but the goal is to have as little repairs necessary within those 5 years. And we do have people come to every year. I think the first year we have quarterly checks with the stoves, and then afterwards it's about every year checking in on the stove. And of course we have GPSs in the stove so we can locate where they are and everything like that. And we give our information so that they can always reach out to us if things are going wrong. Yeah.
I've heard the word kit.
Yes.
What's in a kit?
Yeah, so I don't have the exact things
Yeah.
specifically, but it really is, it's the chimney,
Okay.
it's the griddle, the plancha, and then any other like metal pieces that are just harder to find
Okay.
in the area, but it's the things that are more custom. The combustion, the thing that you would put the logs on, that would also be made and provided in the kit. So really anything but the bricks and the mud and stuff like that.
And where do
or
the bricks
cement.
and mud come from?
Local, so
Local.
whatever community we're working in, we'll source from that community.
Okay, so the bricks and the mud are not included in
No,
your cost?
yeah.
Okay.
Or, well, it's included in the full cost,
In the
yeah,
full
so.
cost? Okay.
Yeah, so there's a whole kind of, and that's why I say it fluctuates,
Yeah,
because we can always know what our kit is, but then everything else will kind of fluctuate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you partnering with anybody else? Like, I was thinking of Shelter Box. We used to have little stoves in the shelter boxes, and we found that when we evaluated, they said, we don't want them because we just cook in the ground.
Yeah,
So now we're seeing more villages set up with Shelter Box. Are you working with any team or any other group like that?
we're now working with Shelter Box. We currently have a new project with Agros in Guatemala, and they are working on, with a Rotary Club, is actually a district grant from Palo Alto, where they're working on a Healthy Start program. It's water and sanitation, and then also on the, that was a global grant, and our part of it is a district grant for the stoves. So we're kind of working with them where they're helping
Great.
families and helping Healthy Start, of making sure that young families are set up with what they need, and now the stoves are part of that. So we do have some, it just depends. We're always kind of fluctuating. We have quite a bit of different partners that help us, especially it's a beautiful partnership because they help us with the communities that we might not be aware of, or we don't know exactly who's in these communities, who needs them the most. So our partners will help us with that, so we can really spread our reach to those that really need it.
Neat. Well, thank you so much. Big round of applause.